The morning light fell softly over the camp. The air felt still in a way that did not feel natural. Abraham stepped into the empty tent where Sarah once lived, seeing how the silence pressed against him like a weight he could not lift. He noticed the air carried the faint memory of a presence that was no longer there. Standing in the doorway with a heaviness that reached deeper than grief, he felt the ache of a world that had shifted beneath his feet. The man knew that nothing in his life would ever feel the same again. Its fabric moved gently in the breeze, as if trying to breathe for a woman who no longer could. The quiet around him felt hollow, making the moment feel unbearably final. You know this kind of emptiness because you understand the loneliness of carrying a burden for others while facing the struggle of feeling unseen. This familiarity with loss is a heavy companion. Abraham walked slowly across the room as if afraid to disturb the memory of her presence. He felt the weight of years pressing against his chest, mourning the ache of a love that had shaped his entire journey. His spirit trembled with the shock of absence. His heart beat with the ache of finality. His soul resonated with the quiet courage of a man who must keep moving, even when the world has stopped. He placed his hand on the fabric of her resting place and found it felt cold. The camp outside moved with the slow rhythm of people who did not know what to say. Silence wrapped around Abraham like a reminder that grief isolates even in a crowd. The quiet seemed to whisper that he was stepping into a future that no longer had her voice in it. He stood between memory and reality. He stood between love and loss. He stood between the life they built and the life he must now continue alone. You know this place because you know what it feels like to lose something that shaped you. You recognize the aftermath of a moment that changed everything. You understand the weight of moving forward when your heart is still standing in the past. Have you felt this emptiness in your own struggle? Application 1. The struggle. There are moments in life when something ends so quietly that the world does not notice. Sometimes you lose something so deeply that the silence afterward feels louder than any sound. You might stand in the aftermath of a change you never wanted. While you move through your days with a steady face, your heart feels like it is walking through a home that no longer breathes. This emptiness is real and heavy. You carry the weight of being the one who must stay strong. You bear the quiet ache of being the one who must keep going. You endure the emotional strain of being the one who must hold others together, even when you feel like you are falling apart. You show up with steadiness, even when your spirit feels hollow. You show up with responsibility, even when your heart feels bruised. You show up with courage, even when your soul feels tired. You do this because you must. You do this because you care. You do this because something inside you refuses to let the emptiness swallow you. But the truth is simple. You feel alone. You feel like the only one who understands the depth of what you lost. You feel like the only one who carries the weight of the silence left behind. You feel like the only one who stands in the quiet space where grief and responsibility collide. This loneliness does not whisper. It lingers. It follows you into the office where the glow of the screen reflects the heaviness in your eyes. It follows you into the car where the silence feels heavier than the road ahead. It follows you into the night when your thoughts refuse to settle. You wonder if anyone sees the emptiness you hide. You wonder if anyone understands the pressure you carry. You wonder if anyone notices the strength it takes to keep moving. These questions linger and do not leave quickly. You ask yourself if you should be further along by now. You ask yourself if you are failing by feeling this deeply. You ask yourself if you are the only one who feels this way. You have been steady for so long that you have forgotten how to collapse. You have been responsible for so long that you have forgotten how to rest. You have been grieving for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to breathe without heaviness. This is the quiet burden of the one who stands in the aftermath. This is the ache of the one who carries the loss. This is the weight of the one who must keep going when something sacred has ended. But here is the truth your heart needs to hear. Your emptiness does not mean you are broken. Your grief does not mean you are weak. Your heaviness does not mean you are alone. Your emptiness is the echo of your love. Your grief is the evidence of your depth. Your heaviness is the quiet proof that you are carrying something sacred. You are walking through a place that requires courage. You are surviving a moment that requires strength. You are holding together a world that requires tenderness. This matters deeply. It matters more than you know. Take 5 minutes today to acknowledge the emptiness you feel without trying to fill it. Let this moment be a small act of honesty for your soul. Application 2. The shift. There comes a moment in every grieving heart when the silence you carry begins to reshape the way you see yourself. The emptiness you feel begins to whisper things that do not belong to your story. The quiet you experience begins to convince you that you are walking through this aftermath without support. You begin to believe that your heaviness is a burden to others. You begin to believe that your sadness is an inconvenience. You begin to believe that your quiet ache is something you must hide. These thoughts settle slowly and deeply. You start to see your life through the lens of loss rather than love. You start to see your heart through the lens of emptiness rather than depth. You start to see your journey through the lens of isolation rather than meaning. But something begins to shift when you look at your grief through a different light. Something begins to change when you realize that your emptiness is not the absence of God, but the space where His presence becomes clearer. Something begins to awaken when you understand that the quiet you stand in is not a void but a sacred room where healing begins.